Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. Today I'm going to be talking about some recent news I saw on some public-private partnerships, and these are being done with some major internet service providers with local communities. And I think this is kind of the way things are going to be going, also with the new funding that's coming out. Be back in just a second. Thanks for joining me. Rick UZ here with Broadband Deployment News. So as I was saying, I've been seeing some stories. I've been seeing these on and off, so I just thought I'd talk about it today. I just saw a couple here in the last week or two. So, and these are larger providers. There's a couple here with Charter, for example. So here's one, new 800,000 cross-sector partnership boosts Minnesota broadband. So this is a county in Minnesota, and Charter Communications. They've symbolically broke ground on $800,000 project. The Charter said will bring broadband internet service to more than 350 rural unserved homes and small businesses. And let's see down here. So the agreement between Kandiyohi County and Charter Communications includes nearly $240,000 in ARPA funding that was secured by the county. So the county secured the ARPA funding with more than $563,000 in private investment from Charter. So this is a situation where Charter is putting in quite a bit of money, and then they're getting assistance also from this ARPA money from the county. Charter operates in 42 states across the U.S. and has started focusing on rural broadband in the last couple of years, according to Patrick Haggerty, Regional Senior Director of Government Affairs for Charter. He said, "I was sharing with one of the residents here that without the assistance and partnership of the county in regards to this project, this whole thing wouldn't happen with Charter." So, and this is what we're trying to overcome, is we've got these areas that are unserved and underserved, and when you've got a big operator like Charter out there, they can't make a economic case to deploy fiber out there unless they get some kind of funding. And in this case, the funding is actually coming from this public-private partnership. So the county's getting $240,000 in ARPA funds, and then Charter's kicking in the money to finish that out, and they're going to be able to do this. And they wouldn't be able to do that, they're saying, without these funds from the county. According to Charter, construction began April 1st and is expected to be completed in the summer 2022, so that's just coming up here. Mike Jorgensen, Area VP of Field Operations for Charter, explained the significance of this project. So this really signifies new construction of a broad horizon and actually expanding our footprint, he said. Last year in 2021, if I'm correct, we extended our coverage to an additional 10,000 customers and businesses, and for 2022 we're on track for exceeding that. So Charter is traditionally a cable operator. They traditionally have a DOCSIS plant, hybrid fiber coax, but these are all greenfield opportunities, and they had experience with fiber going almost all the way to the curb. So this is really, now they're doing greenfield fiber to the home. So this is the way that they're going in these areas, and you'll see another story here. Let's look at that. So this is partnership brings broadband to rural Florence County. This is South Carolina, Lake City, South Carolina. Most Florence County residents will have access to high-speed broadband internet by the end of 2023. A collaboration between the Florence County Council and Spectrum, which is Charter, will result in nearly 14 million expansion of Spectrum's fiber optic network that will bring gigabit broadband and other Spectrum services to more than 6,000 homes and businesses. The county and Spectrum started about 8 months ago, when the county council realized Spectrum had received $1.2 billion in RDOF funds. Spectrum has committed approximately $5 billion to bring high-speed internet access to rural areas of the United States. So now here's a situation where Spectrum got the funding through RDOF. So they have the money in this case, and they're going to be working with the county. Let's see here. Spectrum has committed $9.3 million to expand its fiber optics network to more than 3,200 homes and small businesses in unserved rural areas of Florence County. Florence County Council committed $4.5 million of its ARPA funding to the project. So this is a little different from the other one. In this case, Charter has the RDOF funding, the county has the ARPA funding, and they're putting that together. Now, I'm assuming they're putting that together in different areas, and I think it says that here. So you can't overlay one funding program on top of the other and say we're going to put all of this money in the same place. You're not supposed to do that. So I'm assuming that Charter went out, they got the RDOF money for specific census blocks, and then the county can take the RDOF money, and the county can take that ARPA money and then apply it to the other areas. So they don't have to say, I don't think, the ARPA money goes to the state, and then I'm sure the county is working with the state and saying, okay, here's the other areas we need to backfill with the ARPA money to be able to be contiguous with what Charter is doing, and then we'll cover all these areas. So I'm assuming that's their plan. It says here, the company will align its existing RDOF fund to build out to bring high-speed internet to an additional 2,800 homes and small businesses in Florence County, which will bring high-speed internet to more than 6,000 homes and small businesses. So again, I think they've got their area, and then the county's looking at the other area with their ARPA funds. The RDOF portion of the Florence County expansion is one of the first projects where Spectrum will use its new in-house underground construction capabilities. Spectrum's multi-million-dollar investment allows it to complete underground trenching and drilling for its fiber optic network more efficiently and bring broadband to unserved areas more quickly. So they've got some kind of technology that they invested in. It might be micro trenching, something like that, where they can get this trenched. Doesn't cost that much. Maybe you don't have to go so deep, but yet maybe keep the fiber safe. So Spectrum spent the past 7 months design. This is not written properly, I don't think. Spectrum spent the past 7 months designing the network and getting permits to install fiber optics on utility poles. So they did have that process. Now the company will take more than 600 miles of fiber optic cables, connecting it to utility poles and connecting it to customers over the next 2 years. So that's there in South Carolina. Then we've got here near where I am. Wow, this is really small. Hold on a minute. See if I can make this bigger. This I could not highlight because it's actually an image, I think, or something. I could not even click on it. So Coweta approves ARPA funds for broadband expansion. This is Coweta down south of Atlanta. Coweta Board of Commissioners, let me close this, unanimously approved a broadband infrastructure expansion project with Charter Communications, which will be funded under the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. Under the agreement, Charter Communications will construct and install a wireline broadband network, I'm assuming fiber, providing 1,000 megabits or 1 gig per second download capability by half a gig per second upload to approximately 1,128 residential addresses. The program will utilize 900,000 of Coweta's ARPA funds. According to Hans Wilson, Coweta's finance director, the U.S. Treasury has encouraged ARPA recipients to prioritize projects designed to provide service to locations not currently served by a wireline connection that reliably delivers 100 by 20. As part of the agreement, Charter is required to participate in the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program, the ACP, or provide access to a broad-based affordability program to low-income consumers in the service area. I'm sure they'll do that. They already do that. So that'll be part of the ACP, where people can get the $30 per month for internet service, or $75 if it were tribal lands. To be eligible for ACP, households must be at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, and then also or qualifies for some of these things like SNAP, lunch program, school, whatever. So it doesn't say here that, it says that the county is kicking in 900,000 of their ARPA funds. It doesn't say if Charter is putting in any money in this. So it's interesting how they're probably talking to these different counties, and in some cases maybe they have to put up some money, in some cases maybe they don't. Then we've got AT&T. AT&T hopes Indiana public-private partnerships will be the first of many. So they're moving in this direction as well. So, this tells you if you are a ISP, especially an independent ISP, that's in an area that is, maybe you've got unserved or underserved locations in your area, or you are near them and adjacent. I'm sure what's going on here is you've probably got Time Warner and AT&T that are somewhat in these areas. So they're close by, and these are just areas that were too hard for them to reach to make a profit. So now they can with these federal funds and partnerships. So if you're an independent ISP and you have territories near you that are unserved or underserved and you haven't addressed those, you should be talking to the state broadband office to find out about maybe, and then the local towns as well. So talk to local towns and then partner up, get with the state broadband office and tell them that you want to serve those areas. And you can get then through this public-private partnership, those funds could be sub-granted to you if it was the IIJA money, or there's probably still ARPA money available from the state. There may still be ARPA. It depends on the state and how efficiently they've been putting that out. But there may be ARPA money that you can then use in conjunction with a public-private partnership between yourself and a county or a city. And it could be that the funds would go directly to you, but a lot of times it would go to the local government. But you can work with them because a lot of times the local government, they want the broadband, but they don't necessarily want to get in the business. We talk about municipal broadband a lot, and there are a lot of munis that are looking at that. But a lot of them are like, well, yeah, we need it, but we really don't want to have to hassle with that. So they would like to have a partner that has familiarity with running these networks. And actually, if you look at the requirements and the NOFO for the IIJA, for the BEAD program, they really are looking for organizations or entities that have experience managing broadband networks. So that really, I think, helps push this public-private partnership narrative, because you might have a city that has, they might do some utilities, but they have no experience with broadband. But if they could partner up with a service provider and the two of them work together to get that broadband deployed, the service provider can run it, the city can have good broadband, so it's a really good option. It says here, the two public-private partnerships that AT&T has announced in Indiana, including one expected with the city of Boonville, could be the first of many, said Jeff Luong, AT&T president for broadband access and adoption initiatives. He said, we're having discussions with communities across the country. So they're already doing this. So again, if you are an independent provider, make sure that AT&T doesn't come in there and step on your territory, or what could be your territory, so like maybe an adjacent area. Today's announced agreement with Boonville, contingent on funding approval by the city and a final contract, comes just a few months after AT&T inked a private partnership with neighboring Vanderburgh County. The plan is for AT&T to make fiber broadband available to 4,000 locations in Boonville. Long confirmed that the $4.4 million Bonneville project will be funded in part by the city and in part by AT&T, but declined to specify the percentage of the project costs that will be covered by either party. He did say, though, that the city will not need to issue bonds or tax residents. Now, he's speaking for the city, I guess, but what is the city going to do? He noted that communities nationwide now have funding that was made available to them through the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Program created in the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, and through other federal funding programs already established or in the planning phase. That could be ARPA, could be the Consolidated Appropriations Act. It could be, I'm sure he's talking about BEAD, the already established, or in the planning phase would be the BEAD stuff, kind of established and in the planning phase. So I don't know if he's saying there that again, he's speaking for the city, so I don't know if he's saying that the city has already gotten that committed to them, or if the city is working with the state on getting ARPA funds, or will be working with the state on getting some BEAD money. The BEAD money is going to be a long way off, so maybe it's ARPA that they're talking about there for the most part. Boonville is in a rural area where AT&T would not have been able to justify the investment to deploy fiber were it not for additional funding provided by the city. Although some public-private broadband partnerships call for the community to recover its investment through part ownership of the network or through a revenue-sharing agreement, Long said AT&T doesn't like to offer those options. We're trying to advocate is to keep it simple, he said. The more complicated it is, the harder it is to implement. It gets to the point where the cost of administering and managing the relationship is too costly, he said. So, excuse me. So what he's saying there is, it sounds like the city's not going to have to operate any of this. The city's going to, I'm assuming, kick in some funds from some federal program. AT&T is going to kick in their money, their investment. He hasn't said what the percentage is on either. And then it sounds like AT&T is just going to take it on from there and run it. So it's a way for the city to get AT&T to come into those areas that otherwise they would not have done, and the city doesn't need to manage anything. Unsurprisingly, he said, we want to work with partners that want to have an impact quickly. The network in Boonville is expected to be completed with 18 months and to support speeds up to 5 gig symmetrical service. So, and AT&T has been touting that 5 gig service. So again, they're putting it in pretty quickly. So any federal funds that are coming are either going to have to come later, or they're going to get some ARPA funds pretty quickly through this. And then lastly, Consolidated has also been doing a lot. This is a story about Vermont. They've also been working up in Maine and doing a lot with some public-private partnerships up there. So they partnered with Vermont municipality on a fiber network. Consolidated Communications is partnering with the Southern Vermont Communications Union District to provide symmetrical gigabit speed broadband services to almost 12,000 Bennington County, Vermont homes by the end of the summer. So they're also going to be getting this in pretty quickly. So, I keep seeing these stories about, whether it's a public-private partnership or whether it's just somebody on their own, Time Warner, Comcast, AT&T going out and deploying fiber on their own, whether it's 5G with T-Mobile and Verizon that are getting speeds well above what's required for the definition of broadband with licensed spectrum. So being licensed spectrum, it qualifies for federal funds under the BEAD program, and even if they don't get the federal funds, it's going to be served. It's going to be considered served. So we're seeing more and more territory being covered by these kinds of things that are planning on being deployed by the end of the year. In this case, not till 2025. Yeah, so it's going to take quite a while, I guess, to do this. But again, these areas will be either under construction or planned. So it'll be interesting to see how this impacts what the federal broadband maps are going to look like from the FCC when they come out later this year. The first draft of that's supposed to be out in November, after all of the service providers enter their location information into the broadband fabric that is now, there's a preliminary fabric available right now. And then from June to September, every wireline broadband provider needs to put in their information into that fabric in the way that the FCC needs it in order to determine who is served and unserved. And then there's going to be a challenge process after that. So it's going to be interesting to see what those maps look like when all this is said and done, because there's a lot of broadband going the ground right now, or through the air, that's being deployed. The ultimate goal is to serve the entire CUD, which is comprised of 14 rural towns. In the first phase of the project, Consolidated is investing its own funds and using a subsidy from RDOF to serve 400 of the 12,000 homes. So they've got some money for that, for RDOF. Fidium fiber costs $70 per month for the first year and $95 per month subsequently. So I don't know if they're doing the ACP. They probably are. Most providers are, which would give the $30 subsidy for folks to be able to get that. And then if they get any funding through the IIJA, there's also a requirement that's through BEAD, also a requirement that they have a low-cost option, but a lot of the details on that are going to have to be worked out between the state and the service provider, and then between the service provider state and the NTIA on what qualifies as a low-cost product, and is it something that does qualify. So as you can see, lots happening, a lot of broadband being deployed, a lot of funds available now. RDOF money is being released. There was a announcement, I think it was today or yesterday. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, just some more RDOF funds that have been considered ready to authorize. That's the second to last step before the FCC says you can have the money, and it's pretty much a given at that point. If you've been ready to authorize, then you've just got two more steps of getting in a letter of credit and a bankruptcy letter into the FCC. As soon as you do that, you can then get the money. So not a whole bunch have been approved, but I think this is the 10th round that has been ready to authorize right now. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, click the little bell. You'll be notified when I'm live. If this was helpful, give me a like. Appreciate that, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.